No risk, no reward. I'm sure we've all attempted something in our lives that we were scared of failing. However, if humanity lived in fear, I doubt we'd be living the lives that we live today. We probably wouldn't have ever landed on the moon or created our power grids. Thanks to humanity's determination and perseverance, we've managed to achieve things that were thought to be impossible. One thing that was thought to be impossible was the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge. In fact, it was known as the bridge that could not be built. I remember when I first visited the Golden Gate Bridge, looking up at the towers, and I couldn't believe something so tall was created by man. Me and my siblings raced across the bridge, and you wouldn't believe how long the bridge was. By the end of the race, we were all exhausted. During my research, I come to realize just how great an achievement the Golden Gate Bridge is. Today, it's known as, or it is among one of San Francisco's biggest tourist attraction and known as one of the most beautiful bridges in the world. In 2016, UC Press states that it's among one of the most photographed structures in the world. This does not come as a surprise to me, and thankfully the bridge was built to last, so many more people can come and see this amazing bridge. Today I'll be going over some thrilling facts about the Golden Gate Bridge. First, we'll dive into the history of it. Then we'll go over some of the problems faced during construction. And lastly, we'll talk about how the Golden Gate Bridge still benefits us today. The Golden Gate Bridge all started with a man named Joseph Strauss. Joseph Strauss was born in 1870 on January 9th, and he submitted his design for the Golden Gate Bridge in 1924. It took about 6 years for the War Department and the district residents to approve his plans. So that happened in 1930 when it was finally all approved, and it took 3 more years for it to actually start construction. Construction lasted from 1933 to 1937, a total of 4 years, and unfortunately Joseph Strauss died a year later in 1938. The Golden Gate Bridge today is the second largest suspension bridge in the U.S. And besides the initial construction of the bridge, it's not the only construction that has been done on it. In 1997, there was a seismic retrofitting. A civil engineering paper on ProQuest states that it's the first long span bridge in the U.S. to undergo seismic retrofitting to withstand earthquakes up to 8.3 magnitude. And it was a $175 million project that lasted almost a decade, 9 years to be exact. Now that we've gone over some of the history of it, we'll go over some of the problems faced during construction. One thing that I found really interesting was that the South Tower took a lot longer than the North Tower to build. The reason was because it was built really offshore, about 1,000 feet compared to the North Tower, which was built right on the shoreline. This meant that the base of the tower was about 100 feet underground. A little over, actually, 110. To do this, divers had to go down and place dynamite and blow up the seafloor to reach bedrock. After this, they were able to start creating some fender walls, which is the structure that the base is on or around. And to do that, they still had to come up with a lot of engineering solutions before they were even able to build the base of the tower. This was a very dangerous project, and unfortunately a lot of construction workers did die during the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge. 11 did die, although they did end up saving about 19 with a safety net that was put under the bridge during construction. Besides these problems, there was also thermal expansion. If the bridge was built like a normal bridge, the thermal expansion and contraction would have destroyed the bridge a long time ago. And for the solution for this, Joseph Strauss created what was called finger expansion joints. And it's basically every 50 feet or so, there's these joints that allow the bridge to movement. So if it expands, it'll create like space right here, and then when it contracts, it'll still be fitting together so the bridge doesn't fall apart. These were just some of the problems that were faced during the construction of it, and these were just some of the few solutions that Joseph Strauss came up with. Now that we've gone over some of the problems, I'll talk about how the Golden Gate Bridge still benefits us today. The Golden Gate Bridge, or San Francisco, is known as the Golden Gate Highway and Transport District. This became their official district their official name of the district in October of 2009. And this basically stated that the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, it stated that they will be a reliable mode of transportation for goods and services and people that come through. 10 million people visit the Golden Gate Bridge every year. This brings in a lot of revenue for San Francisco and California as well. Besides being beneficial money-wise and bringing in a lot of money, it's also beneficial to just tourists. Like I said, it's one of the biggest tourist attractions. And if you ever do decide to visit, you always have the option of taking a tour bus or possibly taking a cruise under the bridge. If you do it like my family, you can walk across and really enjoy it without, rushing through a tour. I would recommend that. And those are everything that I wanted to talk about when it came to the Golden Gate Bridge. We've gone over the history. We've gone over some of the sacrifices and the feats made by the workers and the engineers. And we've also talked about how the Golden Gate Bridge still benefits and contributes to our society today. In the end, I hope that I did inspire somebody to go visit the Golden Gate Bridge and maybe walk along it and look up at those towers just as I did when I was younger.